Thanks for tuning in to the Empire Boxing Podcast. A huge thank you to our partners at Sting Boxing. It doesn't matter if you're into boxing for fitness, as an amateur, or as a pro, Sting has something for you. Head to their website, stingsports.ca, and use the code EMPIRE10 at the checkout to receive 10% off.
An Empire Boxing and Unlearning Network production.
Welcome back to the Empire Boxing Podcast, and I have a very special guest coming from the United States of America, Mr. Jason Strout. And we were talking a little bit in the pre-show, and I was saying that what hit me, like, oh my God, this is a guy I need to reach out to and get on the podcast and talk to, was watching the UFC Embedded. And it was Gilbert Burns. It was a little training segment on him, but it was for the last card where Cejudo and Sterling headlined that. And so I thought, yeah, I saw you and I thought, oh man, I got to reach out because this is a guy I would love to chat with and get to know. And I think our fans would absolutely love chatting with you. And interesting, I know that you are also, you were or are still one of the co-owners and head coach at Church Street Boxing in New York City, correct?
I used to be one of the head owners and one of the co-owners of Church Street.
Okay.
But yeah, now I've no longer
moved on from that
in that position. But I moved on down in Florida now. Working with Kill Cliff Fight Club, training a lot of amazing fighters down in South Florida, and it's a good change. You know, I do miss New York. I still visit occasionally, go up, see the guys at the gym, and kind of don't let them know I'm coming, just kind of show up, and it's always a little family reunion. You know, it's great.
Yeah, that's the best. I actually love New York. I had the pleasure of actually training at Church Street a couple times when I went through New York, probably around like 2016, 2015, and it was one of the places I would go to. You know, I was just kind of looking to just hit the bag, and I would always get hit up for sparring as soon as I was in there getting some work. They're like, bring your mouth guard back next time. Like, hey, we got headgear. And I'm like, I ain't wearing spare mouth guard if it's not been if it's not fresh. But yeah, everyone was such a good culture, good energy. It was such a pleasure to train in a very iconic space and a very iconic city.
It is. And we had a lot of female fighters coming out of that gym. A lot of female fighters, I think, around that time that were training and sparring and fighting there. So it was a good spot for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you are also a commentator for Absolute Muay Thai, which is on UFC Fight Pass. Is that a current thing you're still doing?
No, that stopped when COVID happened and kind of made the world a little different than it is now.
Very different place.
So I was over in Bangkok doing the commentating for Absolute Muay Thai. And then, everything kind of shut down. The stadium shut down. The world kind of took a break. So I was like sitting in Bangkok for a little bit, trying to figure out what to do next. Right. And I was like, I don't know. I was trying to wait it out like everybody else, and it just didn't really go away. So I was like, hey, I think I'm gonna have to fly back to the States and just kind of figure things out from there. And that's kind of what I did. I just went back and I had a van and I just drove around the country and slept in that, stayed at people's houses, and then I ended up in Florida.
Amazing. And you're originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Originally from Milwaukee, yeah. I'm actually going back there Sunday. My mom organized some family reunions, so I'm kind of excited for that. So after the fights here in Vegas, I'm gonna get on an early flight, head back there, and then I gotta go back to Florida, and then I'm heading back out to Vegas in a week later. So
it's
all over the place.
Super busy. Yeah. I had the pleasure of going to Milwaukee for the first time. I think it was last year. Yeah. So a friend of mine owns it's a relatively new gym. I think it's maybe 2 years old. Dropout Fight Club.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, and they're kind of more in the fitness space, but really, really cool, salt of the earth. They're innovating. And I had the pleasure of going out and checking out their space. They brought me out. We met on Instagram, became buddies, and they were like, "Come out to Milwaukee, come see what we're doing." And just amazing hosts. So shout out to them at Dropout Fight Club. And I thought
I'm gonna have to. Lost you. I'm back. I don't know.
Perfect. Yeah, and I thought.
Back. Yep.
I thought Milwaukee was such a cool city. It totally exceeded my expectations. It was a very, very cool place. Really historical.
Yeah. Like everybody that visits there says the same thing. They're like, wow, this place is not really what I expected. And they love it. Everybody kind of falls in love with it. It's like, I don't know if it's not really a big city, but it's got like a small town kind of feel. And it's got everything. It's got good food. It's got good people.
Yeah.
It's a good place, but it's nice to visit. It's nice to go back and visit every once in a while. But everybody that seems to fall in love with the place.
A little bit different of a climate than Florida in the winter, I would imagine.
Just a little bit. Yeah. I'm sick of the winters. I don't think I could ever do another winter ever again. I'm just over it. It's like I feel like they get like that part of the country, you get like 2 good months of good weather, and the rest is just like you're waiting for it to be summer, and then it's here, and then it's over, and it's like cold forever. It's like terrible. My dad always calls me. He's like, "Hey, it's snowing again. I'm like, man, it's still like April and May. Like, when is that going to be over?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's like so similar to where I was born too. So yeah, not my thing.
Oh, yeah.
Not my thing. Okay, so let's bring it back to your sort of superhero origin story. Tell us the very beginning of how you cut your teeth in combat sport.
I don't know how far back we want to go. I guess it kind of starts with just, I like fighting, and I had a friend that did Muay Thai at a gym in Milwaukee. I actually trained at the Duke Rufus gym way back when, like late 90s. And I was like, I want to check this out. And I got tickets for a fight, went to the fight, fell in love with it. And like a week later, I showed up at the gym and I was like, hey, I want to do this. I want to fight. And they're like, yeah. Everybody says they want to fight. And I was like, no, I want to do this. And then 6 months later, I had a fight and had a bunch of fights. And then I started training a couple people. And then I kind of just moved into that world where I just didn't fight anymore. I just started training guys. And I always thought like, even now, like I'll sit outside the cage and look in and be like, man, I could probably do this again. But I'm like so far removed from it. And then I jump into sparring and get hit a couple times. Like, yeah, maybe not. But yeah, it's, I don't know. It just kind of like made sense to me. I walked into the gym and it was like something I really liked. And I felt good doing it. And it's the only thing I could stay focused on for this long. Like most things I get into and it's just over, like I'm into it for a little bit and then I'm done with it. And it's like this kind of stuck. And the great thing about it is I'm always learning. Like even as a trainer or a coach, I'm like constantly learning. I'm learning from other coaches. I'm learning from fights and watching fights. I'm learning from fighters and just being around it and being around all these top guys. Now every day I just keep getting like new ideas and a new perspective of the sport and a new love and I just keep falling in love with it. Sometimes I get a little burnt out and then you kind of step away for a minute and think about it. And it's like, just sucks you back in. Like even when I went to Thailand for that little bit, I wasn't training anybody. I did a little training on my own and I kind of missed working with fighters and working with, coaching people. Then I got back to New York and I taught a class here or there. And then I started working again with fighters. And then I was like, all right, I do miss this. I do love it.
Yeah. And you skimmed over, had some fights. So I'm going to pump your tires if I may. And you can kind of tell me the timeline of these sort of things, but you won the Wisconsin State boxing tournament. I want to talk about that because I do want your perspective on, Muay Thai, kickboxing versus boxing, which drew you into, which sport you enjoyed and why. So I want to dive into that a little bit. But you also have an ISKA junior middleweight title, an IKF junior middleweight title, and the IKF regional Muay Thai champion. So had a few fights is a bit of an understatement. You kind of ran the town for a little while. Yeah, you had a hard run.
But it was a short career, like all these guys I work with, they have so many more fights than me. And I have this, I was in it for a little bit and I had a lot of fights in a short period of time and then it was just over. But as far as the box, like I always kind of wanted to box, my uncles boxed, loved boxing, watched boxing all the time. So I kind of thought I was going to do that. But then it's like I was in the hardcore scene, punk rock scene. For some reason at the time, like in the hardcore scene, kickboxing was big. And that kind of introduced me to kickboxing and what Muay Thai was. And
hey, wait a second.
Guy, Paul.
So you're in the hardcore punk rocker scene. And that's how you got into okay.
Yeah.
Tie that up in a bow
like
for me.
90s.
I'm trying to understand how those two things even.
I don't know. For some reason, like in the late 90s, like early 2000s, I felt like a lot of the hardcore kids weren't like the way they danced. So like they got into like
the mosh
kickboxing, and for some reason, and like they danced and kicked, and it was like some of the guys were into kickboxing. I think that's what kind of introduced it to me. And then there was a kid from Milwaukee, Paul Gazzo, who passed away, who also, used to kickbox and I knew him and that kind of like got me intrigued. And I was like, man, me and this guy, Todd, we were in a band with, we gotta go to the gym and start training. We got to start training. And because of him, it like got me interested in the sport. And for some reason, that's how I ended up I just thought I was going to box. Like there used to be this neighborhood, we hang out and they had boxing gloves and I just box everybody. I'm like, well, maybe I should try to do this in the ring. And like I said, then I got introduced to kickboxing or Muay Thai. And then I went to the gym there and just kind of fell in love with that and fell in love with the whole Thai culture, and it just kind of opened my mind and broadened my horizons and introduced me to this whole world I never knew existed. It was just one little thing led to another thing. It was pretty unreal how it happened. But as far as the boxing and the Muay Thai, like I loved them both, and I thought like I was just going to box. Like everybody boxed. There was boxing gyms in the neighborhood. We had a couple fighters out of Milwaukee. It's kind of a fight town, but we didn't have really a lot of champions that came out of there. But everybody loved boxing. Everybody loved fighting. And then I got introduced to the Muay Thai because of Duke. Like I just happened to have like one of the best trainers in the country, if not the world. Technical trainers living in the same town where I was born in. So I got lucky going to that gym. It just getting a good foundation and a good base right off the bat with him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And Rufus Sport is a very iconic, gym out of that area. And I mean, Duke retired with like a ridiculous record or something like 35, 8-1, and then a pro boxing record of like 2-0 or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
he had a couple pro boxing fights. Yeah. He did it all.
So tell us a little bit about what it was like to train under a guy like that.
It was intense, I guess it was very intense, but very technical. And he always expected the best out of you. He never really settled for less. He knew how to really make you dig deep. He kind of break you down and build you back up and really kind of build, I guess it builds character. It builds like a certain kind of toughness you need in this sport. I think that's why I had so many fights and I did so well early on. Like even our team was very successful early on. Like we go to these tournaments and we most of the time win all the fights. We just had a strong team that everybody training with each other just kept building off each other. They were good. So you'd make each other better, and I kind of feel like that's the environment I'm back in now at Killcliff down in Florida, where all these good athletes are just keep pushing each other to get each other better. And that's where I started. And I feel like I've kind of come back to that. And there's that same kind of energy in the room, which is awesome. Like it just propelled me, like that first year, I think I had like 10, 11, 12 fights and I just kept fighting and fighting and fighting. And I was able to do that because of what I had around me. And I just had Duke was a great teacher. He just taught great fundamentals and just was on you about technique all the time. And I think that's what helped develop me as a trainer as well. Just knowing what's important and how to get the best out of someone and just how to explain to them, technically what they can do better to get them to be their best,
Yeah, absolutely.
I just got lucky, I just got lucky.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like every day I wake up, I'm like, man, I just got lucky. Like, look where I am. I'm like, I get to go to fights tomorrow, sit outside of a cage and watch these amazing athletes, beat someone up. It's just unreal.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, okay. So, and you trained in Milwaukee for a while, you had your fights and then you went and you got, so tell us about how this announcing kind of gig happened with Absolute Muay Thai and what took you over there.
It all kind of, it's all intertwined, I guess. Yeah. So I started with the Muay Thai and then I did an exhibition with somebody. I think we were in Illinois. Me and this guy, we used to fight each other when fights would fall out. We just kind of show up and just fight each other. And I hurt my knees. And then Duke was like, hey, you want to try boxing? And then I started having more boxing fights and less Muay Thai fights. And then I was having a lot of both fights or whatever. And then I ended up going to New York. I don't know what actually that has to do with anything. But then I ended up going to New York to go visit New York. I had friends out there. My little sister was going to move out there. I had a friend that was going to move out there. And he's like, hey, go check out Church Street when you're out there. My friend Justin Blair, he owns this great gym in New York. I was like, all right, cool. So go to New York, visit this guy. So there was a Muay Thai class. I'm like, hey, Justin, Duke sent me. Do you mind if I take the class tonight? Took the class. Chris Romulo was teaching it. We sparred at the end, I guess. And he seems to think that I got the best or better of him. I don't know. I thought it was
hey, you know what? If the fans are curious, it is on YouTube. You can go watch it.
So we moved around and then, I ended up going back to Milwaukee and then I had a fight and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was take a time off. I didn't know if I was going to stick around Milwaukee and I was like, I'm going to go check out New York for a while. The girl I was dating moved out with some friends that lived out there. So I was like, I got an opportunity to go check out something new. Why not? Let's see what's out there. So I packed up the car, drove across the country and then went to the gym again, said, hey, Justin, if you have anything open, I could teach classes or whatever. And then Chris was there and Chris saw me and then he asked me if I could help train him for an upcoming fight at a national tournament. I trained him and this other guy, Carlos Savalas. We went to the nationals. They both won. And then I became Chris's trainer from then on out. And he's like, hey, a job opened up at Church Street where you can teach Muay Thai classes. I was like, all right. So I started teaching classes there, teaching more classes. Chris eventually left. So I was teaching all the classes. I was teaching boxing classes. Ended up becoming a partner with Justin Blair, became really good friends, still really good friends with him. And then, throughout the years, we just stayed close. I owned the gym. Somebody else bought us out, still stayed close. And meanwhile, Justin was over in Asia buying content. And he had this idea to buy content, the Muay Thai content, and air it in the States on some sort of media platform. And it happened to be UFC Fight Pass. And he calls me up. He's like, hey, man, you want to come over to Thailand and commentate for these Muay Thai fights on Fight Pass? I was like, all right, let me think about it. And I said, there was kind of a time where there was a lull of people I was training and kind of things were just kind of up in the air what I was going to do. I didn't really own the gym anymore. So it was the perfect time to go, let's go check it out. so yeah, so I was like, all right, let's go check it out. And I kind of had a little motivation from my friend Eliana, and she's like, you should go check it out. You should definitely go over there. I think it's a great opportunity. And I was like, all right, great, let's go. And so I went over there for a couple. I'll try it for a couple months. I'll go to try it out for a couple months. And I did some commentating on his shows, Friday Night Fights in New York City a couple times. And I just thought you just show up when you commentate and just talk about what's happening. I didn't realize there was a color. Well, I didn't think there was a color. I didn't know the difference between a color commentator and play-by-play. I just thought you just talk about what's happening until I actually did a little research on it. I was like, oh, there's two roles you play. So now I got to kind of learn what I'm doing because it's kind of serious now when I'm going over to another country. And it's like, that's going to be my job now. So I did a little research of what it was. And yeah, we showed up, worked out of Unlearning Stadium, Lumpini Stadium, and then one other stadium. So it was like I'm sitting ringside of these, world-renowned stadiums, and I get to commentate the best fights in the world. It's like it was unreal. It was cool. Something. It was just surreal. It just didn't seem real. And I'm living in a foreign country, and it's like, I'm driving in the back of a cab, and then we eventually go to Cambodia, Myanmar, and me and Justin, this guy I met because of the gym I started to train at in Milwaukee. We're just sitting back like, how did we get here? Yeah. It's just crazy. How does one, like if I wouldn't have decided to go into that gym and say I want to do this, like I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. Like who knows what I'd be doing? Who knows where I'd be? It's just every day I wake up, I'm just like, how'd this happen? This is crazy. I just feel so lucky. And like, I don't know, like some days it feels like things suck, but then you're like, you know what? It's not that bad. Like it always seems to work out. But yeah, it was an awesome experience. I got to live in Bangkok for like a year. Cause then I came back for a little bit and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it for full time. Got my stuff together. And I started to, pack up the apartment. We decided to, Eliana was going to stick around for a while. Then I was going to go to Asia. Then she was going to come visit me later on. And so that's what we did. So I went over there, got a place. We worked like 3 days a week. And then, she came over. And then from there, it was just like, you just figured out whatever happened. Now I'm back in the States, and she's traveling the world surfing. So yeah, it's crazy.
So cool. And then COVID hit and events just stopped. And then you came back to Florida, and how did you find Kill Cliff?
Well, yeah. So, I was doing the commentating, and, we did our last show at Lumpini. Things were kind of slowing down. Our last show, they were like, oh, we just won't have anybody in the stadium. No, so that was like a weird thing to experience. So there was no fans, because like that's a big part of Muay Thai over there. It's like the fans, the betting.
Yes.
They really get the fighters, kind of riled up and get them going. And the fighters kind of bet. I mean, the fighters kind of play to the crowd. So they kind of fight to the style of the crowd. If guys are betting more, they'll slow it down, they'll pick it up. So now there's no fans. So these guys just went out there and fought. The fights were actually kind of really exciting because they had no influence. They just went out there and just went at it. So it was a whole different experience. And it was just quiet in there. And then everything shut down. They're like, all right, no more fights, no more anything. So I was stuck in my apartment, just kind of like trying to figure out, like I said, what am I going to do? Just keep waiting this out and hoping the world opens back up, or then just kind of go back to what we were doing. And so you'd wait, a day would go by, and then a week. And I was like, all right, I got to figure this out. So I made the phone call to Justin. I was like, hey, Justin, I think it's time for you to fly back to the States and just kind of figure it out. So I flew back to Chicago. I went and stayed with my mom in Milwaukee for a little bit. I had a van, this big 16-passenger van I would use to transport my dirt bikes to races in New Jersey. So I built a little bed in it. I was like, well, I'll just kind of drive around the country in this. So I drive back to New York. I stay at a friend's house in New Jersey. And then sometimes I'd just sleep in the van in Tribeca. And I was starting to teach classes again. Like the owner of the gym was like, hey, do you want to start teaching classes? We're teaching classes outside now. I was like, I'll give it a try. Why not? And it kind of got me back into things again. I was like, man, I do like this kind of this teaching. It's kind of, and then another guy invited me to go work with him at a fight in Pennsylvania. So I was like, all right, I'll go do that. And I was like, kind of got me back in the groove and get me falling back in love with it again. And I was like, all right. But then I started getting cold, in New York in the winter is not much fun. I'd sleep in my van, it would be cold. But the nice thing is hotels were cheap. So like, if it got too cold, I'd go stay at like a 5-star hotel for nothing because of COVID. It was kind of cool. But then I was like, man, I'm just teaching classes to pay for, just spending the money, just sleeping in a hotel. So I was like, I don't know, I got to figure something out. And like the holidays were coming and with the COVID, like the house I'd stay at, they're like, well, we don't really want you around because you're in the city. And if you're sick and you bring it, we can't see our family. I'm like, all right, cool. I got it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get back in the van, drive back to the Midwest and hang out with my family for the holidays. So I did that, drove back. And then Jared Gordon, who I've been working with since 2013, called me up. He eventually ended up in Florida at Kill Cliff. He trained with Henry Hoof before. So he's like, he went back down there. And he's like, hey, I got a fight coming up. I'd like it if you, come work with me again. I'm like, all right, I'll give it a try. Why not? I'll think about it. So like right after New Year's, I got in the van, took a couple days, drove down to Florida, and I haven't left. Like Henry called me up a couple of times, said, "Hey, we got a great thing going on down here. You want to come check it out?" So I was like, why not? What else? Let's see what happens. And it's like going on 2.5 years now, and I'm still in Florida. So
amazing.
And I've never been there before. I've never been to Florida before. Like everybody visits it, everybody goes there, and it's like I was supposed to go there a few times. It just never happened. And now I'm like Florida man. Like
wicked.
Living at the beach, looking at alligators.
Yeah.
Driving my dirt bike on the street. Like what do people in Florida do?
Yeah, wicked. And it was okay. Park on the dirt bike thing. So did you race bikes as well?
So I grew up riding BMX bikes because I could never afford dirt bikes. I always liked them and thought they were the coolest things in the world, but I just could never afford them. So my friend Dan, who lives in New Jersey, is really into dirt bikes. And we go over there and visit a lot of times to hang out with him and his wife. And he's like, "Hey man, I got this little XR100. He goes, "You want to, go ride it around?" I was like, "Yeah, why not, man?" He's like, "You ever rode one before?" I was like, "Nah, but I can figure it out." And he's like, "All right, you got to show me, 1 down, 4 up. Here's the clutch." So I'm just riding around his yard and I'm like, "Hey man, can I go on that field?" And he's like, "Yeah." So I went out in the field and I started building a track, and I didn't really even know how to stop correctly. So I just keep going and going and going. And I built this really cool mini track, and it's in the backwoods. So then I kind of got obsessed about it. So I was every day, if I didn't have anything going on, I'd drive 45 minutes from Jersey City out to his house, get on this dirt bike and keep riding in laps and laps and laps. And then I was like, I need something bigger and better. So then I bought another bike. I bought a DRZ 400, so on off-road bike. And I was like, well, it's just not enough. And then we went out into the woods riding around. I was on this TTR 125, so a 4-stroke. And he had a 250 4-stroke, and my other buddy had a 300 2-stroke. And he's like, "Hey, take these out, see how you like them." So I took out the 250. I was like, "Ooh, this is fun, man. This thing rips, Then I got on the 300. It scared the shit out of me. And I was like, I got to have that thing. So then a couple of weeks later, I went up to the shop, bought a brand new Husqvarna TE 300. And I was like, all right, I'm going to figure out how to ride this monster, And then they talked me into going to a race. And I was like, a hare scramble race. So it's you race in the woods for a period of time, an hour and a half, whatever. And you see how many laps you could do. And I remember the first time being out there being like, I don't know what I'm doing. I shouldn't be out here. People were hitting me. I was falling off the bike. I'd stop and I'd be yelling at myself in my helmet. I'd be like, what am I doing out here? I'm like, this is stupid. I did that first race. I got back and I was just so frustrated, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get good at this, and I'm gonna conquer this and not feel stupid anymore. So I just rode and I just practiced all the time. And then a year or two later, I did every single race that season and I ended up winning the series. I mean, it was very beginner level, but I was like, I'm gonna beat this thing, and I did it. I went to every single race. Some days I had to drive 4 hours one way just to get to the race, come back. And it's I did it, and I ended up taking first place. I got a little trophy for it. And I was like, I'm kind of proud of this, I went from not knowing how to ride to figuring it all out. And then, winning a series and then moving up to B class. And I raced a little bit, and then I ended up going to Thailand. So I haven't done much racing. I thought there'd be more riding in Florida, but everything in Florida is motocross track.
Right.
And I got to get a different bike for that. And there's not a lot of woods. And if there is a woods ride, it's 3 hours away. And plus I'm busy. I'm never home. I'm always
on the road
in some random hotel or house. Yeah. On the road.
Yeah. Now, that's that. Yeah. So there's a huge, undertone of perseverance and just I don't give a shit. I'm going to do this. And is that something that you think really helped you through your fight career as well? And do you have that, or did you find it through combat sports?
I don't know. I don't know if I think that much about it. I mean, I must think about things, but I just kind of I guess I just get obsessed about things. I don't know if I'm going to do this fighting thing. I guess I'm going to be the best at it, right? And just give it all I got and just see what happens. I'd be at the gym twice a day when I would train. And if I moved furniture at the time. So if the job went late, I felt I couldn't get to the gym. I'd start panicking. I'd find a phone and call and be like, "Hey, I can't make it today." They'd be like, "Hey, it's all right. It's all right." But it was to me, it was I'm missing out on something that I'm going to get better at. And I'm if I'm not there every single day, how am I going to improve? How am I going to get better? And everybody else is improving around me and I'm not going to be able to get better. And I feel I was losing something. So there was always that drive to just go and just, more. I just wanted everything all at once. And it's I couldn't get enough. Even today, it's I can't get enough of this shit. I watch fights all the time. And it's I try to take a break, be all right, I need to kind of chill out and think about something else. But it's it's always in there. It's just constantly, and I want to get better, and not so much, but more as a trainer now. So if I keep improving myself, I can improve my skills. I can help the skills of the fighters that I'm training get better, right? So it's just, and never today I was sitting around the house and I'm getting kind of antsy. I'm I'm gonna go to the gym, and went and hit the bag a little bit and just trying to work on new things and just trying to improve myself, and also just to kind of encourage the guys. Hey, they see this dude doing it, maybe I should be doing it too. I want to try. Even when we go running, I'm trying to outrun everybody. I'm trying to outwork everybody in the gym. Even now, just because that's how I came up. We'd be in the gym, we'd be hitting the bag, and everybody be trying to push each other. I'd hear that guy hitting the bag harder. I'm man, I got to hit it harder. I got I got to outdo him and he's got to outdo this guy. And it's like, you just build that intensity and energy. And it just, I guess that's what it is. And I guess that's what it was with the dirt bike riding too. I was like, I want to be better I just want to get better for myself, but also better than that guy. And I don't know. I just keep pushing, keep pushing yourself. And I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I can't, for one, I just can't sit still. I'm like,
I love it.
6,000 miles per hour all the time. It's like, go.
It's like an insatiable appetite to just be and to do everything that is required to be, the best, which is, it's like, there's more to that statement than just like being the best. It's truly like, you can extrapolate that out as, accomplished and educated and, having sound skills, and all of that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. So you have to have that dedication and discipline, because it takes a lot of time to be good at something, especially good enough to be able to say I can confidently teach someone something because I put in the fucking time to understand it. Right now, let's talk about the nuances a little bit between, so you kind of came up in a boxing family, but then you just really found yourself sort of in Muay Thai. Like, what were the nuances, or was it the culture that really drew you in and attracted you the most?
I don't even know if it was the culture so much. It's just I guess the violence of it, right? I mean, like, I grew up and you see the movie Bloodsport and kickboxing. Oh, yeah. I was like, I don't know, that kind of like, I like that. Like, you go in the yard and try to pretend like you're kicking each other. And it's like, that just like, it just seemed cool to kick people. I don't know. It just seemed, I mean, boxing was one thing. It's fun to punch someone, but it just seems so much cooler to kick.
That's so interesting.
Just you feel like a ninja or something. Like, you feel like you got some special skills if you can kick. And then, I guess that's what really drew me to it. Like, I remember walking into the fights in Milwaukee, and Kong Napao was fighting a fighter from Thailand. And I remember walking in, and the guy's jumping in the air and elbowing the guy in the top of the head. And I was like, man, this looks like something I want to do. It just something about it. It was just like, it was like this beautiful violence, it was like this coordination and this technique. And it's just like, and I'll never forget like the smell in there of the Thai liniment, and just, it was just something about it. It was like, I need that. Like, I have to have that in my life, like something, it was just something special about it. Like something I've never seen before. And I was like, wow, I want to chase this and just do this and see if I can look like that someday. It was just exotic too, right? I mean,
for sure.
Like, and every movie they always show the Thai fighter was always this like exotic guy with these elbows and these cool knees, and it was like, man, that's some cool shit. I want to do that, And then you kind of learn about it and dive into it, and then see where it comes from, and then see different ways of people doing it. The French do it, and the Dutch do it, and English fighters, and everybody's got their own style, and fighters from Africa, like Danny Bill, and it's just like all these. Yeah, it's just something, and it's such a small thing, right? It's a small country that produces these great champions, and people that get into Muay Thai just fall in love with it. They like fall in love with the whole, and that's the thing too. It's like, I did enjoy the culture, and I never knew what Thai food was before I, learned about Thai boxing. So it just, just opened everything up. I'm just some dude from, the Midwest that drank Mountain Dew and did construction. And now I'm like, got this whole new, world I'm opened up to. So it's just funny how things work.
Yeah, it's
like,
radical.
If you kind of if you step out of your comfort zone, like, you can be exposed to so much more, and it's hard for everybody to do that. It's particularly hard for me to do it. Sometimes I need a little persuasion from people to be like, you should try to do this, and I'd be stubborn and not want to do it, and then I'd fall in love with it. It's like, that's just kind of how, like, I think I don't want to do it, and then I end up doing it, and I fall in love with it. It's I don't know. That's just what I do, I guess.
I was speaking to Dejan Kajic the other night on the podcast, and it was interesting because he used the word violence, and he was describing how he thinks about each of kind of the martial art disciplines. So, say for example, boxing, he described it as perfection. Kickboxing was controlled aggression, and then Muay Thai he described as controlled violence. And then he used that word right away. And I just thought that was really interesting. And he went farther, and I think he mentioned jujitsu, and I thought that was a really cool way of putting it. I had never really thought about that before, but you said violence. I was like, there is an element to it that is just real gritty, specifically in Muay Thai.
I mean, especially where it comes from, like, and then when you go there and see it and see where the people come from and the way they're brought up, it just makes sense. And then you even go further, like, you go see the fights in Cambodia, and they're a little sloppier, a little, like you said, grittier. Just like, you could just see where people come from and their style of fighting. Then we went to Myanmar and saw the Letway, and I'm just like, wow, they have nothing and they fight like that. I mean, not that they don't have, I hate to say that, but there's not a lot of opportunities there. So, and there's not a lot of skillful training. So they fight like they're hungry. They fight like they really want it. And it's so brutal. And yeah, it's like nothing. That's like nothing. Like Muay Thai, when I first saw it in Thailand, was like, wow. And then you go to these other countries and it's like a little bit poorer countries. And you're just like, oh, wow. Yeah, this is like, they're coming from these farms. They travel for days to fight this crazy sport. You can get headbutted and knocked out. And if you get knocked out, you get 2 minutes to wake back up, like things that are unheard of. But they do it, and it's just, it's just, and it is violent. Like sitting in front row, they're watching those fights, and just like, wow, yeah, this is pretty violent stuff, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Somehow I love it.
Now you're starting to, so tell us, in the pre-show, we were talking about your day today. You had a day you were watching a bunch of weigh-ins. So what's your involvement with some of the UFC fighters now, and who are you most looking forward to and working with and being part of their camps? Like, kind of dig a little bit into that for us.
You know, I hate that, you know, I don't look forward to them, but I look forward to all of them. Like, they're all unique in their own certain way. You know, I get to work with all these amazing people and amazing fighters. You know, it's like I get to go with them on these trips, and they trust me enough to bring them on the road with them to their fights, and, you know, spend a week with them, and then you really get this bond. Like, it's like you know, it's such a special bond you get with these fighters. And yeah, I guess I look forward to that. Just kind of being with them and experiencing the whole thing with them, watching them cut the weight, watching them rehydrate, watching them get ready for the fight, watching that emotional roller coaster they go through. And, you know, then they're ready. I wrap their hands, and then we just walk them out to the cage, close the door, and it's just happening. It's just, there it is. It's going on. And it's like, you can't describe that.
Yeah.
And I get to do it almost weekly with these, you know, special humans, you know, there's no other way to say it, that they're just, you know, it takes a special person to get in there and do what they do.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
And I get to be part of it, you know, like, I don't even know if I make that much of a difference. I don't know. Like, I'm just, they're so talented. Sometimes I just like sitting back and just watching what they do and just learning from them.
Well, that's,
you know, just happy to be a part of it, you know, like just happy to be helping them see it maybe in a different way and just try to make them better at whatever it is they do. You know, it's such a fun role I get to play.
Well, that's like an interesting thing you said too, because like for a coach, like maybe you agree or disagree. I think when you get to the top 5% or less, you've got a lot of experience on your hands with athletes, and you've got a lot of talent, right? They're quite refined already. So that's like, I think one of the hardest jobs for coaches at a really high level is how do you take a guy or a girl who's in the top 5% and get them to the top 1%? Like, that's such a precise, syllabus that you're trying to deliver. It's the hardest part of coaching, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. You got to it's like fine tuning an engine, right? You got to make it have that purr and make it run smooth, and just, and maybe there's something broken on it. Maybe there's something that's not working quite right, but then you got to kind of work around that and still get them to perform at a way that's going to make them successful and also not get them hurt. Right. I mean, that's kind of the main thing, is just keeping them safe the whole time and having them be successful. Right.
Yeah.
And just work on their defense, their offense, and just strategize, but don't over strategize, because then if they're over strategizing, they're just constantly thinking about what they're going to do versus what they can do. You know, that was one thing I kind of learned over time, and also working with Henry, is don't focus on so much about, and I've seen it before, like we have this huge game plan of what we're going to do when we get in there, and then if the other guy doesn't do it, you're just kind of waiting the whole time. And it's like, well, we kind of forgot what got them to the dance, right? How did they get to where they are? Because they're good. Let's just keep making them better at what they do, and they can look out for certain things, but there's a reason they got there. So let's just keep improving that and making it better and making them feel confident in whatever it is that they do, so that they can go out there and perform to the best of their ability and not worrying so much about, because I've seen the other guys do it too, where they've in the fight and they're kind of waiting for the other guy. Like, I've seen this guy perform and he's good, but now I feel like he's waiting for that guy to do that one thing so you can capitalize on it. And the guy never does that one thing. And then also the other guy's waited, and then the fight's over.
And
it's like, I missed my opportunity, you know?
And it dismantles their game plan, and they lose that processing rate, right?
It does. Yeah. It's like, just go and do what you do, and just do it the best. And I'm going to be in the corner, and I feel like that's where I can that's where I do my job the best, because I've been in so many corners. I can kind of feel like I can see what's going on and kind of decipher it and kind of crack the code and watch the other guy and kind of give good advice and just know how to ride that wave that's going on, that crazy emotional getting hit, and it's all over the place. And I got to be able to kind of bring them back to wherever they got to be to focus and go out there and recharge and get back to what they're doing, and I feel like that's where I feel like I feel the most comfortable is once that bell rings and once that first 30 seconds gets out of the way, then I'm kind of in my groove, I kind of get back, I kind of get into where I feel the most comfortable, where I feel I can give the best advice or the best. That's where I feel like that's where I'm the best is when the fight's happening, getting them to the dance. And then when it's happening, just seeing and being able to kind of break things down, just because I've been there so many times now with so many different people. Like I've seen the opponents, I've seen guys that fight like my guy, I've seen guys that fight like the opponents and how certain things, like I used to watch fights all the time to be like, well, if this guy fights like this, how do you beat that style? And just kind of always going back and forth. Like, how do you beat this style with that style? So it's kind of a generic kind of like game plan that can kind of crack this code and crack that code. And then you kind of just kind of give it to them to kind of use that instead of, so it's not too technical. It's kind of like a general way of beating that style, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and then they can just sort of add their own fight. Yeah, they can add their own sort of fight IQ to that and their own intuitions and things like that. Now, I kind of want your opinion on the Cejudo like Sterling fight as an example of potentially from maybe someone who doesn't know as well as you. I felt like, Cejudo came into that, really with a strong wrestling presence, as everyone expected. Sure. And I saw him get into front headlock 5 times and not go for a single sub, not go for a single like back take. And he stood up and let him up. And I'm curious, what you thought of that.
I think the main takeaway I took from that fight while watching it was just, I don't want to say ring rust, but just time off. He's been out for a while.
That's what I assumed too. And just from that last piece of execution, right? Just almost guessing himself.
It's like you can be in there too much, or you can not be in there enough. Yeah. And Sterling has been active. He's been active, like ever since that the Peter Yan fight where they had that little mishap.
Yes.
I think since then he's kind of like propelled, and he's just gotten better and better, and just kind of like that experience just made him grow. And I think he's been on a kind of a growing path where, Henry might have still been training, but ring time is so much more valuable than anything else, right? I mean, he hasn't been in there. He hasn't been experiencing that pressure and whatever else it is that goes on in that cage and that ring. So I think that's what it was. I think it was just time off. And I think that's about the only thing I can say about it is just time off and just different styles too, right? Like Sterling's good. Like he's tricky, he's crafty, he's loose, he's slippery. He gives you different looks that you maybe have never seen before,
and his jiu-jitsu is pretty good too.
I think that's really what it was.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I was having this conversation with someone the other day. Like there is just such a difference between sparring time, training time, and then truly fight time. Like being between the ropes or in the cage. That it's something that it does to just your sharpness and your acuity and your timing and your confidence of execution. And if you're not actively fighting and you've had a large time off, I think that ring rust is a real thing. And there's no amount of just gym sparring and training that can really make up for that gap.
But even that too, right? I mean, like just if you haven't sparred in a while, like coming back in, you're like
oh
flinching
shit.
at things. You don't see things. You can't pull the trigger like you used to. And it's like, and then it takes time for that. And then the fight is like times 1,000 more, right? It's just like faster and slow motion and quick and this and that. And it's like, wow, if you haven't experienced that for a while, it can kind of catch you off guard. Plus, you got to think, look who Sterling's been training with, right? I mean, he's got Merab, that monster. Like, how many times did he shoot on Peter in the last fight? Like, he's got that guy to train with. So he's seen top wrestling, So he's been
his counter wrestling was good. You could tell he's working on it.
Yeah. He's got good guys in the gym to work with. So I think that makes a huge difference,
Yeah. So what are the odds that you're coming to Vancouver for UFC 289?
Oh, no, I'm not. I wish I was. Henry and Greg Jones are actually going up there. We were just talking about that today.
Okay.
I know. I wish I was. Man, I really want to go.
That's too bad.
Like I've landed at that airport once, and it looks beautiful. But I haven't gone out and seen that part of the world yet. I've been to a lot of different places, but I have not been to Canada yet. It's one place I got to get to. Yeah, I was looking forward to that. I thought I was going to go, but they're sending.
If you go to Vancouver, if you go to Canada, just skip all the other places. Just go to Vancouver. I mean, you don't really need to go to Toronto like you could, but just West Coast.
the rest of the country, forget it.
Yeah,
right?
it's a bit colder, so judging on your Florida lifestyle, I think you might enjoy the West Coast of Canada a little bit more. Okay, so let's go back to boxing. Predictions on Lomachenko,
Sure.
Lomachenko Haney. What do you think's going on here?
I wish I was going to go see that. I'm going to try to go see it.
I would love to.
I know.
I have strong opinions, but
I think, Lomachenko's a special guy, right? I mean, but then is he also, I don't want to use the word older, but is he, people starting to kind of crack the code and figure,
I'm a little
bit past this. I mean, just think of how many amateur fights he's had. Just think of all the experience and the time he's had in that. And then he got thrown right in. There was no building up. It was like, all right, here we go, 12 rounds, fighting for a championship. It was just like, he was fighting top guys. And sometimes that can wear on you and take a little bit away. And we've seen his last couple fights where he's been hit a little bit more than he usually has been hit. But he's also, he's I hate to use it again, but he's a special guy, right? He can do things a lot of guys can't do. And he sees things a lot of guys don't see, And yeah, I mean, Haney's talented. He is, right? I mean, he's a bigger, stronger, fast. He's kind of got
he's sort
a lot
of
of things that can give a lot of guys problems.
He's sort of that next gen, the Haney and Javante and Errol Spence, and these guys are kind of the next gen. And I'm a huge Lomachenko fan. Like I've loved him forever. I've seen him fight. His, just even that whole style of footwork. You see Usyk use it. It's just brilliant to me. I love watching it. But I have a little feeling that Haney might retire him. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, really? I don't think it's gonna. I think Haney's gonna outperform. I really do. Which because
really what?
Just because I think Lomachenko is sort of, I don't know, is he really like at the peak of his career to take on a guy like that and make it like a.
Is he really up for it too?
Yeah, I don't know. Jason, I'm sure you have strong opinions. He's sitting behind the camera. What do you think? Yeah, he thinks so. He's agreeing with me. But you want Loma to win. Okay. I mean, we love Loma. Love him. But I don't know.
I think if he lets Loma kind of get in his groove, it could be a problem, right? He kind of gets going, kind of gets in that rhythm. But if he breaks that early and kind of gives him problems early, and we see even with who was that he fought? Man, that the fast guy from not Nicaragua. Who
Loma or Haney?
Problems till he kind of started taking him apart. No, when Loma fought, who did he fight? The guy that fought in Japan all the time.
The CTE and the recall between the two of us.
yeah. Forget it. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. One of those fights. I mean, maybe it wasn't even him.
There was a guy, and he was in a square. There was a guy, and there was a thing, and they punched each other. He got hit. Yeah. Lately, I'm so concerned about my recall. I'm like, whoa, this is like 60-year-old me is like not gonna be a good look at all.
Mike gave me a code for the door today to get in. He said it 3 times. Like I couldn't. I kept looking at him. He's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I just can't get those numbers." He'd say it. It just wouldn't make sense in my head. I'm like, "Oh man!" I said, "We're gonna have to write this down." I couldn't grasp it. I was like, "Oh man, it's starting to slip already."
Oh man,
if I didn't help, I got kicked in the back of the head yesterday.
In my line is like, I don't make new memories. Like when people try to tell me stuff, I'm like, you either gotta write this shit down. It's gotta be a cal invite or a note. Like, don't tell me I don't make new memories. Okay, so I want to ask you one more. Just the most cringy thing on the internet in the fight world, Jake Paul and Nate Diaz. First off, what do you think about this next gen of sort of, I don't know, influencer boxing? Are you of the camp of it's good for boxing, or you are in the camp of get those fans out of here, they're not boxing fans, it's not good for boxing? Which camp are you in? And then what do you think about that fight?
I mean, it gets people talking about, to tell you the truth, I haven't watched boxing lately just because I feel like it's kind of lost it's just something about it. The announcers aren't the best anymore, and it's just maybe the style of fighting is a little more like, I don't know, just something about it. Like I love it. Like I still watch all the fights from like the 90s and the 80s. Like I love that 70s, and it's just a different style, and it's really gotten kind of away from that. Like I like Gervonta Davis, I like that kind of stalking, but there's so many pauses there. It was like there wasn't a lot of working on the inside anymore. There's not a lot of like trapping and moving and setting things up.
We're not getting fights like so Gotti and Ward anymore. No, we're not.
No,
we're not.
No. And you could say those are maybe not the most technical fights, but they were very entertaining. And they were
iconic.
Like there were some Yeah, and there were technical moments in there. There's like no Bobby Chacones anymore. There's no guys that like kind of dig down and just work, work, work. And then you get to where this is now, and it's great because it's still keeping people interested in the sport. But is it? I mean, and the thing is, Jake Paul puts in the work. I'm not saying he like really puts in the work. Like he takes it serious, you know. Like and he's people might think he's funny and it's a joke, but I mean he does actually put in the work, and he you don't just kind of get to where he is in this world by not working hard, right? No matter what, like the YouTube channel, whatever. That's a lot of work. True. It's not like you just put up a video and like hope that things work out. Like he's constantly working. You know, so it shows in his boxing. He might talk trash, he may sound silly, whatever, but he's putting in the work. And I don't know how much Diaz is taking it serious. And it's a different game. Like boxing and MMA is way different than boxing. You know, like boxing and MMA, you can get away with certain things. One, it's a smaller glove, it hits different. Two, the timing's different, right? It's a smaller glove, it's lighter, it's faster. You can come from weird angles because the other guy's not as technically sound maybe as you are. But if you're just working just on boxing, and Jake Paul can crack, right? I mean, it's an interesting fight, you know, just because of that. But also see Diaz's last fight, he didn't look the most polished, you know, it's kind of all over the place. And
I mean,
so I don't know. I don't know if Jake gets him out of there, but it gets people talking, you know what I mean? But
it does. Yeah, it does. It's just,
I don't know if I hate it. I don't know if I hate it or if I like it, but it's intriguing. Like the Mayweather, McGregor fight.
I think it dilutes it. I honestly do. I think it dilutes boxing. Which is maybe the nicest way of kind of not making that necessarily a negative or a positive statement. Like, but it just dilutes it, right? Like, do you get clout as a pro boxer by knocking out Ben Askren? Like, he didn't throw a punch. Like, it wasn't. It looked like he took a dive. Like, I don't know. Do you get clout as a boxer, or does it dilute boxing? I think it dilutes boxing. Although it has brought boxing to a more of a media forefront, which is good for other boxers and promoters and platforms, etc. So
no, it does. It definitely does do that. But it's like two separate things, right? I mean, you can't compare them to Haney and Loma. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's a whole different thing. That's real boxing, and this is like undercard. I mean, they used to do that back in the days too. They'd have kind of exhibition bouts. Pro football players would fight. They'd draw attention. It's at the end of the day, it's still entertainment. It's like, who's going to get people to watch it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Word.
If it's entertainment and it's bringing people in the seats, it's still a fight, and it is what it is, and we're still talking about it, so it's working
for sure. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, like, exactly. And that's like the other side of me that kind of chimes in is like, Jay, like to me, asses and seats is the most important thing when we throw shows, right? Like I need asses and seats. Right? I don't really give a shit if your boyfriend dragged you here tonight. Like
no, it's about entertainment.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Like, who's gonna, maybe that person's not the best fighter, but man, they put on a show and they put people in the seats and people want to see them fight, win or lose, and that's the name of the game, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
There was no fans; it'd just be two guys fighting in a room. It's like whatever.
Yeah.
It's gotta be entertainment, and that's what this game is.
Yeah.
It's a violent entertainment. Yeah. People like to watch people hate each other.
Yeah, exactly. Gladiator.
It happens since the beginning of time.
Exactly.
It's never gonna stop. Like you stop. Like how many things on the internet pop up? Two guys fighting or whatever, a girl fighting. You watch it, and you're like, oh, that was stupid, but you watched it.
Yeah.
So
true.
If they can capitalize on it, make some money on it, good for them.
True. Well, speaking of controlled violence, you gonna make a comeback or what?
Oh man, I think about it all the time.
Yeah?
It's been way too long. Like I went to some bare knuckle MMA fights not too long ago. I was like, you know what? This looks like my kind of speed, but I'm like, I don't know. Like saying that and then getting hit is like two different things. Like sometimes you get hit, and it's like you just can't shake it off.
Bare
anymore.
knuckle is brutal. Like
I know it sure is. Yeah, I mean, but I don't know. Like in my head, I'm like, man, it'd be so cool to like get all beat up and take those, get some cuts and lumps, and it just, I don't know, seems like fun. Yeah. We'll see. Who knows?
Yeah. Still, so there's a little chance that maybe one day.
It's always in me. Like I'm always waiting. I'm always thinking like I show up at these fights. I'm like, I can make weight, and if somebody falls out, I'll step in and do it.
Hilarious. But I love it.
We'll see.
Once a fighter,
been a long time.
Yeah, once a fighter, always a fighter, I suppose. Hey, so what's next for you? Like, are there specific career goals, coaching goals? Like, do you want to open a place of your own? Like, what's next for you?
Oh man, like I don't know. I'm just gonna wake up tomorrow and just figure it out.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I try not to plan too far ahead.
I kind of knew that answer would be something like that. I'm like, you seem like a pretty go with the flow guy. Like, don't think about it too much. Yeah.
No, man. I mean, shit. I could be hit by a car walking on this place tomorrow, and I'd be like, whatever. Waste of time thinking about the next day. Like, I'm just going to figure it out as I go, you know? I mean, I love what I'm doing now. I'm just going to continue to do this until something pops in my head or I get bored, and then I just find something else to do, you know?
Yeah, fair. What camps are you a part of that you're kind of looking forward to this year?
Geez, I don't even know. Like, we got so many fights coming up. Like,
yeah.
I guess I don't even know who I'm looking forward to. I guess I'm looking forward to Robbie Lawler's fight.
Yes.
That's always fun. He's got a fight coming up in, I want to say, is it the end of June or July?
Yeah,
I got it written down somewhere. I'm looking forward to that because, I think that's going to be a good one. And it's always a good one. It's always fun to see guys like that fight. Hopefully the Michael Chandler and McGregor fight come together. I'm looking for the fights this weekend. I'm always looking forward to Michael Johnson fighting. Looking for every time one of our guys are on the show, I'm just looking forward to it. There's not like one thing I'm always like, hey, I want them all to go out there and just do the best and just keep getting better as, you know, fighters and humans and just figure their lives out, you know.
Amazing.
Like, as long as it all goes good for everybody, right? That's just what it's about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so you're going to be planted in Florida for some time then. Yeah. It seems like it's kind of become the new hotbed, right? Of sort of
there's gyms everywhere. Fighters. Yeah. That's where like people want to go. It's like, there's a couple gyms down there, a couple major gyms, and everybody wants to go down there and train. So, I mean, that's the spot to be. Yeah. Got summer every day. How can you beat that?
I know. I got to get my ass down there and go check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've never been.
Definitely.
Brilliant. Well, it was such a pleasure. I'm so pleased that we were able to connect and have you on the podcast and kind of get your thoughts and some, you know, on some upcoming fights and just your coaching journey and what an incredible transition from, you know, a highly regarded athlete to a very highly regarded coach. And that's not something everyone can do. You know, I do believe that just because you're a great athlete doesn't make you a great coach, because to be a coach, you have to be a teacher. Yeah. And not everyone is able to teach, you know, so seeing someone successful.
That takes time.
Yeah, exactly. So seeing someone that's really successfully put together that path, like, you know, we love to see it. I love following you. I love seeing what you're up to and what you're doing. And you've been part of a whole bunch of fun things. You know, you've been Strike Force, like open workouts with like Chris Cyborg, and, you know, you've had, right? Yeah, you've had some really, you know, cool stuff. And I can't wait to see what's next for you. And it sounds like it could could be anything at this point.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to I was out here with Michael Chandler on The Ultimate Fighter, which airs in a couple weeks, and I can't wait to see how that turned out. Like, you get to kind of like meet these 8 random people that you train, and it's like you kind of fall in love with them, and it's like then you got to say goodbye, and it's like, I still text them every once in a while, but I just kind of want to see how that plays out. You know, how they edit it and show it on TV, and get to kind of relive that, and that was a great experience too. You know, just being able to do that. It was like every day I wake up, go to the Apex and train these guys. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, we're all kind of making a difference in these people's lives somehow, you know. It's kind of cool. It's just cool to be a part of other people's journeys too, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just fun. This shit's just fun. It's just unreal. Yeah. Like, I don't know, man. Just riding this shit out, you know.
Yeah, it is the wildest industry to be a part of, and there's so many ways to be a part of it. And
so many.
I'm with you. It's just like, I mean, we all love our jobs, right? Like,
yeah.
So
awesome.
Definitely, if you ever make it up to Vancouver and you can make it out to one of our shows, we would love to have you in the seats.
I look forward to
maybe
that.
do a little guest commentating on Empire Boxing Promotions.
That'd be kind of fun.
That'd be real fun, for sure. And best of luck to all your fighters, especially the fighters fighting tomorrow in the UFC card. And I look forward to seeing you on more episodes of Embedded and going, I know him.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It throws me off guard too. I'm like, oh, I know that guy.
I know him. So thank you so much for your time, Jason. It was awesome to chat with you.
Yeah, great talking to you. See you later.
All right, that was another episode of the Empire Boxing Podcast. And I'm your host, Coach Jay. Thanks, Jason Strout, for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Make sure to listen, follow, and subscribe to Empire Boxing on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.